First of all, I would like to greet you on behalf of the 6th Global Sustainable Fashion Week. I am the president of the National Fashion League Hungary, and I am also the president of this Global Sustainable Fashion Week, founder of this event. It is my honor to greet you, also our key speaker, Mr. Giulio Bonazzi, and also the others who are really professionals in the ethical and also in the circular fashion, which is very important. We would like to discuss, first of all, about this issue. What is the real difference between the sustainable and the circular fashion? I kindly ask, first of all, to have a discussion about this issue, Alessandra Gallo. Are you here, Alessandra?
I'm here.
Yes.
Thanks.
Alexandra is a sustainable fashion consultant. She's really a very good professional, and she's also founder of the Fashionable Green. And I think that you will explain your thoughts in this issue, and also you can introduce a little also your Fashionable Green project. So it is your floor, Alessandra.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much to Dr. Valek for inviting me. I'm very interested in this talk because I think it's the central part of the problem that we have to face. My name is Alessandra Gallo. I'm fashion consultant, especially about sustainability and circularity. I found almost two years ago, after almost 20 years in fashion industry, this project, Fashionable Green, is a consultant studio, especially for sustainable and circularity. In this year, I had the fortune to face the real problem that many companies, startups, have to face, try to construct their way to circularity. Often it happened to me to help traditional brand to start this way to sustainability, or help many startups because maybe they are the new way to done this work in this moment. And it happened to me to did some consulting for app creator, because the app are another way to deal with the consumer and help me to understand what the product of the sustainability are. So in this last year, in this last year, I start another project about education, because I think that education is the center of the change. So I prepare two different work. One presentation that I call "We Are the Change" for the high school, to make people, the young people, understand how their choice can be important for the future. And the other one are some lesson for School of Fashion. The most important thing is understand for the young creators and young designer that the sustainability come from the start of the idea. So this is the aim of this other project. Anyway, I will share with you my idea of sustainability and circularity. So I prepare some slides. Okay.
I think we have another screen shared. from Smartix at?
Maybe I need to, you have to need to, yeah, okay, I think we can do it. Okay, textile recycling. Find a scalable way to separate textile fibers without losing quality and transparency by improving collaboration between company, state for the reach this goal. So try to be more collaborative on this point, because there are different technological knowledge. We have to collaborate to find the quickest way, because maybe if we work about it separately, somebody will arrive first, but all of us, we arrive later. The second point that for me is really, really important is the lack of legislation about sustainability and circularity. We have to find a way of control the word sustainability, like is bio in the food industry. So the company that's going to use the word have to be checked. Now in this moment, everybody can use this word, sustainability or circular, without any check about it. So we know exactly what has happened. The greenwashing is the first thing that happened. And after that, the worst thing that can happen is that the market, the consumer, didn't understand what is really sustainable and what is not. Yeah. On the other hand, find a way to define minimum environmental criteria on the textile product. So every company should play this game in the same way. Last point for me, very, very important, is the lack of education, information of the consumer about the really meaning of sustainability and circularity, and clarify what they should pretend from the brand that use this concept. About this, I think that the most important problem is that the big company that in this moment are in the market are not interested in do this type of information, because they have lots of problems to become sustainable. The brand that really aim to be sustainable and that have interest in that are too small or are simply startup. So they don't have money, they don't have the possibility to invest in big campaign of information. So the question is, who's going to fill this lack? Who's going to organize a really important information campaign? After information comes education and consciousness. And after that, the market could be changed from the bottom. So I'm very sorry that you didn't see my nice, very nice slide. Anyway,
Can you try again to
Oh, it's okay. I don't want to take too much time from.
Yes,
there's a lot of people that have to work.
Unfortunately, some other program came in. I do not know who opened it. Yeah.
It's okay.
But it was very, very interesting. So I think that it was a clear understanding now what is the circular fashion and what is the difference, what about we were discussing. So thank you so much. And
thank you too. Thank you to the audience.
Yes, it was very interesting. I liked it. I would like to ask Dr. Baharek Zamani. We used to discuss when you lived in Sweden, because Sweden is also a country is a good example regarding the sustainable and also the circular fashion, and also the definition was made by your colleague what is the circular fashion. And just now you are the sustainability consultant at the Technology of Fashion in Milano, in Italy. So I would like to hear your news about the circular fashion concept. So it is your floor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. And thank you so much, dear Alessandra, for your presentation. Very interesting. So just giving an introduction about myself. I'm Bahare Zamani, originally Iranian, lived in Sweden, Berlin, and Milan. And so I can consider myself a global citizen. And I have been a chemical engineer and then did a PhD in a very interesting project in Sweden that was named Mr. Future Fashion. And my main role was evaluating and assessing the environmental and social impacts of the fashion industry and looking into different business models, circular business models, with the aim of how to get to the climate targets. So I would love to very briefly share with you the results of my PhD work. If you have my screen now. Okay. Do you have my slides?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that.
Yes, it's working, so I opened it.
Yeah, okay. So today I would love to share with you the results of one part of my project that was about what are the challenges when we want to implement the circular models, and in this specific case, the renting or subscribing rentals in the fashion industry. So a recap, the Mr. Future Fashion was a multidisciplinary project. So we had designers, industry partners, scientist firm, social science to study the consumer behavior, the policymakers, and we were in the very core part of the project, believing that what can be measured can be managed. So our task in our group was to map the life cycle of different types of garments, performing the life cycle assessment on the whole value chain of the fashion consumption and production with the focus on Sweden. And for dear audiences who are not familiar with life cycle assessment, I will have a brief intro in the next slides. And then assessing the impact of innovative circular economy models to understand how they can help in reduction of the environmental impacts and finding out the critical phases. So when we want to implement these business models, where do we need to focus on? And I will provide a concrete case study a bit forward. And at the end, the results of our study was disclosed in the format of a report to help the fashion industry partners to develop an eco-design toolbox. So as I mentioned, the goal was contributing the management of environmental and social challenges of the fast fashion in Sweden by looking into different circular business models or circular solutions. So as the first step, what we looked into is what is the current environmental impact of the Swedish fashion sector. And for defining that, we needed to have define different garment types that would represent the Swedish fashion consumption. So we looked into 5 different category of the garments, looking into 100% cotton t-shirt, jeans, polyester dress, the jacket, and a hospital gown, that they were all together representing the whole consumption pattern of the Sweden in the format of the materials, where they are produced, and what would be the user behavior, how often they would wash and take care of that type of garment, and how would it be treated in the end of life. So getting back to the life cycle assessment, and what I mean by that is, as a life cycle assessment analyst, you start to look into the material from the first moment that it is extracted to the end that it would end up in the landfill, or something that would happen in the end of life. So we went through the raw material, the fiber production, fabric production, all the processes in the wet treatment, the garment manufacturing, the retailing, the use step, and then end of life that basically, depending on the countries, there are different practices that it would be landfill or incinerated or reuse or recycled. And reuse and recycle is more towards the closing the loop and building up the circular economy. And the results of our study show, when we looked into the climate change impact, the water usage and toxicity, shows that the dominant phases or the steps are in the raw material, in the wet treatment area. And something that was very surprising and interesting for us is also depending to the user behavior. And for our results, it was not about how it is washed, but it is about what type of transportation the user is taking in order to get to the shop to buy the clothes. So the logistics of the user is very important also when it comes to measuring the environmental impact. And when we wanted to look into the implementation of the circular models, then it is about closing the loop. And dear Alessandra also mentioned that at the moment it's very linear. It's about take, make, and putting it back to the industry, to the environment. So the results of the study is actually very extensive, and I would ask everyone, if you have time, to have a look at our study that is in format of a report that you can find on the Ministry of Future Fashion webpage. The second question that we seek to answer is how to reduce the environmental impacts when we want to implement the circular business ideas. So when we want to define circularity, it means giving another chance to materials by taking it back to the value chain. So it can be either through recycling that Alessandra also mentioned about different recycling fibers, recycled fibers, or using the garment and the textile in any format of manufacturing designs that is so touching the creativity of the designers. Or some ideas can be regarding the reuse, which rentals or subscription for the rentals can be a very solid a model that is actually now getting more attention towards that, and companies like Ralph Lauren is starting to have their own rental service. In Sweden, there are so many brands that are having sections of their of rentals on their own products, or creating a platform that the consumers can have the swapping of the clothes with each other. So when again, we needed to define scenarios when we wanted to calculate the environmental impact. So we looked into the offline, and by that we mean that there would be a pickup point that the consumer needs to take a bus or a car to get there, or there are the online services that there is a basically a platform provided for the consumer. So in the offline one, there is a physical shop available, and in the second one, there is a online platform. And then the next question was about when we want to implement and build up these business ideas, what factors we need to consider when we want to look into environmental impacts, because all these type of innovations should be in favor of reducing the environmental impact and helping the companies to get to their climate change targets. We built up different scenarios, and what we looked into is giving a second and fourth chance to one specific type of garment. So prolonging the life cycle or the life of the garment. And then, since it was in our results, it showed that the transportation is important. We defined different scenarios to look into very high impact type of transportation that can be using a car, or medium one that is 50% car, 50% bus, or just the consumer is very environmentally conscious, so would take a bike or walk to the pickup point to get that specific garment. So now I'm actually showing a very a bit complex and nerdy part of our study that is for the analyzing the studies. And what I wanted to emphasize on, we looked into 4 different environmental impact categories. We looked into the global warming potential eutrophication that is due to the use of phosphate and nitrate, the freshwater consumption, and the toxicity. So these are the very important environmental indicators to look into. And what we could see is, of course, when you have another chance to the clothes and they have a longer life cycle, the environmental impact will be reduced. But what is very interesting to look into is when the type of the transportation is having a very important impact on the results. So as you can see on the second bar, that is a bit light gray, and unfortunately I cannot show it with my cursor. The environmental impact regarding the global warming potential is actually a bit higher than the baseline, that is about not having any type of rentals. And it is actually showing one of the important factors that when these type of rental business models are implemented, we need to also think about the logistics of the users, and also about the subscription methods of the user, maybe having a cap or a discount when they were more clothes rented in one time, logging on the platform, so that the consumer doesn't need several back and forth transportation or ordering these clothes to get to their place. Another thing that we looked into is looking into different life cycle phases. So as we were expecting, the results is, of course, when the lifetime of the clothes is much longer, the impact in the production and the wholesale and retail would be reduced, because it is the result of the global warming potential impact would be basically for a longer use. But as we could, again, to emphasize on our results, as we could see, then there is a problem shifting, which is about the use-based transportation. So there are much more distances to be taken by the consumer to get to the place to have access to these rental places, or picking up their post type of parcels that they get. So that is something important for any type of startups or companies when they want to implement the rental ideas. So this last part that we looked into is understanding in the scope of the national level, are these circular business models have any potential for the reduction of the environmental impact to reach to the sustainability targets. And for that, we needed to do a scenario analysis, and I would like to show 2 of the scenarios that we defined here. One was thinking about 40% of the Swedish fashion consumptions will get the chance to be returned into the rentals, but in physical stores. So there, it means the scenario is more relying on the consumer transportation. And then the second one was about the online scenario, that 40% of the Swedish consumption would turn into rentals, but on the online platform. So a more of a design logistics in the hand of the companies who would build up the rental business models. And as you can see in the graph here, the first 2 bars are showing the base case. So the estimation of the global warming potential on the whole Swedish nation could be something to around 2.5 million CO2 tons of CO2. And when the offline rental would be implemented, there is even a risk of exceeding the baseline global warming potential. So, and as I mentioned, that because that is relying on the consumer transportation, but the online rental showing more potential, and it can help to even reducing the climate change impact to 11%, as I am emphasizing here. So the takeaways is, of course, we know that the solution for getting to the targets is to implementing the circular business models. But there need to be some type of a life cycle assessment or environmental impact risk assessment to understand there won't be any problem of problem shifting. As I mentioned, that for our scenarios, rentals mean the increase of consumer transportation, and that can offset the benefits of the gaining that we have from the reduction of the production. The second is for the startups or fashion brands, when they would like to implement the rental ideas, one of the key takeaways is looking into optimal customer logistics. And the increasing of the garment service life, of course, shows that the environmental impact would be reduced. So the parameters to have in mind is looking into the frequency of the garment transactions, number of uses per customer, so how many garments that they can rent per one time logging into the rental, so all can be shipped in one time to them. And how would be the setup of the membership systems in different locations. And of course, creating and providing the underlying information for the consumer, and besides encouragement of using the rental services, also providing the knowledge that the consumers' transportation is having an impact. So maybe suggesting more of using the bikes or walking, or providing the services around it can be interesting for the environmental impact reduction. So thank you very much. I'm so happy to that I could share the results of my PhD work, and would love to discuss it further. Of course, you can always find me on LinkedIn and have my email address. Thank you so much. I stop sharing.
Okay, thank you so much. It was really very interesting. So I enjoyed it. I hope also the others. So I would like to ask Catherine, is she here, or should we postpone a little her presentation? Catherine?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Can you
get to my video? Yes, I'm here.
Can you be
yes,
the next one? Okay.
Yes, I can
then
be the
okay.
next one.
You are welcome. You are welcome. I would like to introduce to you.
Okay.
Catherine Sus, you have to pronounce it very.
It's Susi. It's Susi.
Susi, yes.
Yes.
Is a PhD candidate in creative research. She is founder of the Material Revolution. So she has a very nice access to this sustainability like a designer. So I would like to invite you to hold your lecture, because it would be very interesting from the aspect of a designer.
Yes. Well, I'm just going to share my screen here.
Yes.
Set up. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, super, okay. It's nice when everything runs smoothly. Hang on a second. That should not go right away. So thank you so much, Gabby, for the invitation and for the introduction. I am a practitioner educator that specializes in waste diversion. And I think it's best to kind of situate my practice because of my unique experience over the last 20 years of working in the industry. I essentially established my practice in 2003 in Vancouver, Canada, as a result of several years of working both with pre and post-consumer waste. But I developed a material concept working with waste hosiery, specifically waste hosiery from mills that were manufacturing nylon hosiery in Montreal, Canada. So what I developed was not only a proprietary process to completely transform this material waste into new materials, specifically for fashion, but during that, in the infancy of what I established, I had to develop not only a unique business model that allowed for me to produce these materials, but I also had to establish a hybrid business model that allowed for me to take these materials and to also manufacture byproducts such as clothing, accessories, and also undertake the ongoing material research that goes into working with a waste stream such as this. And so through my experience of establishing this business model, I essentially found myself very early on in my career being invited in to lecture. And I was fortunate at this very sort of interesting time in my career. So this is around 2005, because what it did was allow for me to take what I was doing in real time in the studio and bring it into the classroom. And so that's really important, and to be able to contextualize what I was doing differently in a way that could not only inspire, but impact the necessary changes that were needed in fashion education. And through this, I developed a method, which I'll share with you, based on my approach to dealing with waste diversion from a practitioner perspective, through creative reuse. And I use the acronym MEND for various reasons, and I'll expand upon that in just a minute. So as I mentioned, I specialized, and I continue to specialize, and should say, oops, hang on, we'll just go back for a second. I just want to pause that. I work with this particular waste stream that you can see the model in the center, and I'm get that back. Here we go. So that white material that the model is sitting on in the center of the image that you're looking at is the base material that I work with. And this one particular mill that I worked with in Montreal was producing 2,000 pounds of waste per week. And so that was an astronomical amount of materials. And that was just one of a few mills that I had partnerships with. In 2019, I relocated to London to expand my research and practice, and also to establish what I like to call in my practice, which is important, is geographical geographical textiles, in the sense that I wanted to have my practice based in Vancouver to deal with the waste that was coming out of the mills in Canada, and then do the same here. So the idea is to create and expand upon what I was doing within a circular business model to produce enough materials and products for the consumers that were based in both these regions as part of my expansion. Because so much of my work over the years has been very international, but I had to make the creative decision to how much I really want to make out of this waste material, as well as how much work really needs to be out there in the world and working with a petroleum byproducts such as nylon. And so over my years of doing the material research and development and working with this particular waste material, I found I had to establish not just not only just apply creative reuse to the actual physical materials, but I had to establish a system that not only creatively used and reused all of the dyes, but also the textile inks that I used, which were all eco-based. But it's also looking at the different methods and the tools that I was utilizing as well. So it requires a certain kind of observation of all different aspects of the creative process. It's not just tackling one area that needs a solution. It's really looking at the complete life cycle, inside and out, reverse engineering things so that you have the ability to adapt, which is one of the biggest words that I'm always, when I'm asked in interviews or when I'm giving an interview on my podcast, it's a really important component, because adaptability is what needs to happen in the industry, which hasn't been happening. And so some of the outcomes that I've produced as a result of my exploration with this particular material resource, I understand that creative use and reuse, which often gets, associated with upcycling, which is an important part of the conversation. But when it comes to understanding what is at the core essence of what makes upcycling so accessible, is that it involves it not only involves, but it requires an understanding of the importance of nonlinear ways of thinking and making, and how important improvisation is necessary in order to produce the alternative outcomes that we need to see, as well as the solutions when it comes to not dealing just with waste materials, but how we develop a system or systems that we do require in order to tackle the very necessary issues that we're facing, not just with materials and resources, but in our approach and how we understand how business can be successful in the fashion and textile industry. And so what really informed this concept of mend obviously came from a foundation in my understanding of mending and repair. And although I use the term mend physically and metaphorically in my research and practice, it's important to understand that, mending can exist in all aspects of our understanding of how we approach and create design solutions physically and metaphorically. And so as an educator, and as I came to distill what I wanted to impart upon students, and as also as an educational tool for industry, is being able to situate and again distill what it is that I do that embraces the nonlinear and puts it into a linear system that allows for creative use and reuse to be essentially the sister, the cousin, the twin, the very necessary partnership that allows for circularity to truthfully be authentic and be able to be put in practice. And so the acronym, MAND, is based on what you see on the screen here. So method, explore, navigate, and design. So this is a system for how I am able to share how I've been successful in developing what I've done. And so some of the questions when it comes to understanding how to use creative use within a not just sort of fashion context, but from a textile context, is being able to identify what your modus operandi is. What are the modes? What is your practice? What is driving that? And how can you essentially identify creative reuse in your practice? Because so many people don't understand and aren't able to identify where it is and how they can use it. How can other areas benefit from creative use in the creative process? And another thing to look at is basically identifying what the ingredient list is. So really mapping out what your resources are, what the materials are, what the processes are, who you're collaborating with, and also understanding all the different elements that honestly get overlooked from a design perspective. And so it's important to constantly map that out because it's always in evolution. And so through that, I also encourage, what is the design approach? And because I believe that there needs to be hybrid forms of design applications, it's very necessary. We can't work in a linear system. We're seeing the immense after effects of the design industry that's worked in a linear way. An interdisciplinary approach is really essential to create the necessary solutions if we want to create for future moving forward. So I do encourage the understanding of what the designer's role is within that process. And from here, I expand upon this by experimentation and through exploration, and ultimately, you know, what I try to encourage is understanding what part or what is your process of examination, because you know, when it comes to qualitative and quantitative, you know, methods, they're useful, but we have to look at different forms of documentation and different methods to be able to sort of identify patterns and things that where we need to adapt slightly, and sometimes it just needs a slight tilt, and that can be done in various ways. And so through my process specifically, what I had to do was completely shift the way that an antiquated form of hand dyeing was being used. And what I was able to do through that process is constantly find a method for use and reuse of not just the water, but also of the dye, so nothing gets dumped into the environment. And through that, also looking at how, you know, forms of traditional screen printing can be done in the same way. And the image that you see on the screen here is actually leftover ink that accumulates over time onto the tables that the cloth is printed with. And from that becomes a new material and resource for not only generating new patterns that are used for textile prints, but it's also allowed for the new directions and areas for material exploration and for exhibition purposes. And so it's also an educational tool and a way for creating new materials, essentially new methods for creating new materials out of this constant creative use and reuse. And so it's really about seeing, you know, something that you know, you can identify as a problem, but finding a new way and repositioning it so that it has a role, you know, moving throughout the creative use, you know, cycle. And so the next part, what's important is really about identifying what those creative reuse design tools are within the practice itself. And so how I did that was constantly, and it's an ongoing thing, is navigating essentially areas and constantly, you know, examining and observing aspects of the process, because every time you work with a new batch of waste materials, there's so many different inconsistent components to it that, you know, when it comes to the amount, when it comes to the quality, when it comes to, so there's a constant assessment and sorting process, as well as adapting the, you know, methods that you've already established within that system. So it's this constant, you know, the life cycle of that is always changing every time you're designing a collection. And so when it comes to creative use as a design tool, I mean, the images that you see here are the one on my left, we'll say. That is a result of a collection that I produced that was showcased at Eco Fashion Week in Vancouver. It was made of clothing that was left over from previous collections, and so that was the Nouveau collection, and also through the, you know, accumulation of offcuts and shreds, which are made into woven textiles and made into a variety of accessories. I then began to develop a type of yarn that then I was able to, and which I continue to sell to various people in the industry. And so it's understanding what you have and what is made available, and having the ability to establish a toolkit that allows for you to not only, you know, for your business to work in a circular model, but how does that feed other people in design and designers within that whole, you know, it's about collaboration. And in this case, these images that you see here are examples of different designers that are working with the yarn that I've manufactured. And so again, it's not only a material process that I feed and produce my own collections out of, but it's allowing for the work that I've initiated to also have impact within the creative community as a whole. And so essentially what I've been able to distill through the MEND method is listed here. So really it's about designing with purpose and designing for longevity. design for resource efficiency and recyclability. And that ultimately means working locally and sourcing locally. And through that, designing a system that continually recreates at all levels of the process. So creatively, physically, conceptually, industrially. And what is your company's life cycle versus the life cycle of that textile or garment that you're producing? And so sometimes when you're put into a position where limitations are part of that environment, it does create a liberation and an opportunity for new directions and new pathways to emerge that allows for not only cultural and creative expression, but allows to uncover what is ultimately possible. And through this sort of continuation of creative reuse, it allows for the system as a whole to naturally shift and evolve, because there's no system is static. It's a life cycle. And so through that, being able to source and produce ethically without toxicity is at the utmost, and producing with care and efficiency and mindfulness is absolutely so important. And it's a significant part of what motivates my understanding of what it means for creative reuse to exist within a circular economy. And so it's important to think outside the box. And through that, building a hybrid system, and in my case, a business model that honors all aspects of the creative process, but all processes as a whole, including the people and the resources that you're using. And it's about providing services for longevity for your materials, and design products and outcomes. And it's important to allow for creative reuse to be engaging with your consumers, because it's ultimately about building long-term relationships and supporting your community. And there's an exchange that happens both at the design level and the evolution of the designs that you're creating, as well as for the meaning that it creates for that consumer and that relationship that they have with you. And so collaboration is of the utmost in that process, but it's also within industry and creating the industry partners that understand and they see what you're doing with creative reuse, and not only does it impact their understanding of that, but it also adapt some of their approaches to some of the, not just the design products, if it's a partnership with a larger industry or manufacturer, but it's also, an ability to expand the knowledge and the use of creative reuse as a concept and as a design system. And so through that, building that system in that business model, it's important to be able to bring voice to alternate routes that are very necessary in understanding. And it's great when we consider aspects of the rental and repair movement and finding these digital tools. But ultimately, at the end of the day, all of these different avenues, they do implement creative use within them. It's anything that has to do with redesign or creating sort of an adaptive model. It's a form of creative use. And so it's about finding a new way of framing and understanding the role of creative use within the design process, and as a significant contributor to the circular business models that we are seeing today. So on that note, I'll end that there. But these are some of the links to my websites. I'm based in London right now. I produce a podcast called The Material Revolution. As Gabby mentioned, I'm doing my PhD in creative research, and I have a studio here in London that I'm practicing from. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was very inspiring, and I would like to tell you that we put the replay of this event, and I think that for the others, also the designers, it will be a very motivating lecture. Then we can see you, Professor Dr. El Sayed El Nashar. Welcome in our Global Sustainable Fashion Week family, because we have started to collaborate. We have been starting for some years, I think. Professor El Sayed El Nashar is working at the faculty specific education and in Cairo at the university. And he is also a devoted educator in the sustainable fashion. And welcome. We would like to hear your presentation. You can start. We see your PPT.
Okay, thank you. I am very happy and so very happy to be here. It is a great honor for me to be with you. It is very interesting meeting. I am very happy to learn all lecture has involved in my department. We hope a cooperation with all of you soon. First of all, I would like to do many thanks for Gabriel Walk, President of National of Hungary Association. Many thanks for inviting me to be a presenter in this meeting. I have some academic position, Dean, Vice Dean, Head of Department, have some patent for an instrument of textile. I have developed some faculties of education in Egypt, so I have some kind of book about fashion design, had published in Ukraine, Germany.
I'm busy.
I have 205 scientific articles. I have many things. I am a founder of editorial scientific journal Smartex and conference in Egypt. So I have several international journals. So I have many scientific agreement with Europe and African University. We would like to talk about our lecture, stakeholder of education institution between fashion design and the seamless of clothing. Seamless of clothing is very important in education, in fashion, in factory. It is very important. We can see whilst the training of young talent entrepreneurs to be entrepreneurs-based textile clothing technology, the education will have a close association with the textile clothing industry and conduct industry-based research be about finding development industry. The education of fashion, textile and clothing technology will achieve newsletter creatively into world when variant opportunity of each of the education value of dependence of circle, much youth and especially and experience. Art and craft, we can couple a creative technology management, merchandising work underwear in sphere of compare with promote a new different and concrete or courses provide the skill experience. Our objective to provide excellent education in textile clothing, it means fashion studies to our student who enter Egyptian faculties of applied art as their school labor, development staff or mature provision and earn repetition of education, vacation training of industrial large. That to conduct academic, administrative, and other service efficiency organized to professional manner that will enhance in image and recognize education beginning the stockholder and the consumer in spare with a seamless solution of satisfaction. The education of fashion and the clothing technology in Egypt Technology Campus introduce series of short courses for this who wish embedding easier entrepreneurs development of self-employment activity in the field garment manufacture. These courses and are content English, Arabic language. They will be held in Egypt campus during weekend. Anyone can apply by individual situate who this wish learning basic garment manufacture development enterprise skills and offered will be taken help candidate develop startup project. Then it is important note some textile of apparel textile and apparel companies are using development brand information, not yet brand investment by the researcher, especially under brand industry concept. In additional industry aspect of interest of research for applied in Mashar system. This is my system as a database by this value creation process for sustainable for the utilizing of structure historical data have not attained in some attention. In short, research gap existing student limited comprehension to rule BIS under technology industry concept to maintain sustainability in technology, brand, textile, and apparel industry consequence. Egyptian creatively and innovation. Technology and innovation remain a most existing sector in the apparel industry and the Egyptian deposit. It is many challenger can continues to be the innovation hub for world apparel, having a real vision with the advisor working whilst focusing on productivity improvement and he being founder. In all of our activity, it is whole lead of the hosting such a successful industry, driven by clear purpose career, but to our product interest in which impact of the market. In our environment in the apparel industry, driven technology and innovation in a way that are changing how a fashion industry work. Then with the rise of high technology companies in the region, many Egyptian textile manufacture as company, industrial company in El Obor city, close Cairo, Egypt, that using Sonati seamless machine for producing a modern seamless clothing run their own it sustainability and require for change. It can noted with the industrial exhibition and vacancy interest for 4.0, whilst next evolution is industry 0.5 in order to relay sustainability factors and future. As a growing industry, mining is strong bound with the government institution and university advocal growth industry within a country. It is due maintaining positive to with the supplier, consumer, and consequently evaluate business model that enable Egyptian apparel itself at its most preferred consequence global apparel manufacture. Sustainable meat textile manufacture, Egyptian apparel and has competed with a core sustainable manufacture for many years. This complement has seen impressive change in manufacture process, sourcing strategy, and product innovation, making Egyptian leading distribution for branded that care about environment impact their garment. It is a testament of our continuing Egyptian industry, both the world custom but built growing apparel factories and African natural fiber manufacture. The recent investment for Wolof solar panel installation of the solar textile of Egypt manufacture faculties is just incorporating of the long-term goal in setting environment and being responsible for limited environmental resource available to us. We are consequently looking for a way to minimize negative impact of the environment and investment technology, both for environment sustainable. learning resource for fashion design. Clothes of fashion in ancient Egyptian clothes in ancient Egyptian were extremely interested in fashion and its change. This seems evident for trend, theme, tomb, themes where customer and the style of popular classes were soon copied by the lower classes. The most common fabric clothes, both women and men, was in linen. We can see some photo from ancient Egyptian clothes in many temples of Egypt. Woman chess dress typical of the old kingdom since 5,000 years before Christ. We can see a stretch fabric, stretch dresses on ladies without using lycra, without using spandex. It is seamless. Egypt use a seamless clothes since 5 to 7,000 from 5 to 7,000 years old before Christ. A straight in the last figure, straight slim tag dresses with circumference of leg hem less than 20 inches, also called the silhouette dresses. It is more detail for describe these clothes. We can see another photo to show Nefertiti tomb. We can see the clothes and the ancient Egyptian clothes that use line color style, very modern style for fashion today. They are using this styles today for modern fashion. It is from ancient Egyptian clothes since 5,000 years old before Christ. For both photo, the draped dresses with additional flounce, braided great or dropped on one side, also called around dresses of warped, was made from transparence of white linen woven fabric. Dropped dresses with additional flounce, plated greater on heel of the side. So warped dress woven and fastened of the side. Easier front or back may be held with button, tumble hole, tie, or belt. We can see next one from ancient Egyptian, unified double seamless stretch clothes theory. Woven seamless of clothes adopt unified theory of stretch on the traditional interior woven seamless of clothing resulting from a stretch raw material and the fabric structure which attract and viewed and their relationship in the outside of the energy severity tube seamless stretch fabric resulting from body size, 3-dimension offer, and aesthetic durability of woven seamless clothes. Woman fashion at the first right photo and left body. In the left photo, stretch fabric, body confirming dresses made from linen stretch fabric may be held in place by a stripe as a straight slim tagged dresses with circumference of leg hem less than 1280 inches, also called strover dresses. And we will is no any material of spandex we used their time to get the stretch, but for stretch potential, they are using a stretch fabric structure like a spider structure. Like a spider structure, not spandex, like a spider structure. The style underwear dresses wear composed for a heater type top worn of casual summer weave. As a conclusion, neckline just above the bust line, held by stripe over shoulder, a stripe with many firm. We can see more in next photo. They are using a jumpsuit with one shoulder since 7 years 7,000 years old before Christ in Egypt. We can see the light clothes, light and white clothes. We can use, they had used a jumpsuit. We can see a stretch fabric body conforming jumpsuit made from linen stretch fabric, may be held placed by stripe as a straight, slim leg and with the circumference of leg then 8 to 5 inches, also called stubral jumpsuit, and we will know this is no material of spandex were used in this time. To get a stretch for a stretch potential, they are using a structure, fabric structure like a spider structure. A symmetrical jump that not same left of the right side. We can see this is description of fabric. We can see next photo, same stretch fabric, body confirming dresses made from linen fabric, stretch fabric, but they didn't use lycra, they didn't use spandex, just fabric structure of spider. We can see jumpsuit. We can see another photo, stretch body from without spandex from linen fabric. We know material of linen had used in, we can see here a jumpsuit of stretch fabric at left of green and at right it is white. We can see this photo of clothes that used a stretch of a spider structure, doesn't use a spandex, doesn't use a lycra, doesn't use any rubber in clothes. Another one, and we will material of spandex, we can see the modern clothes by using machine in net fabric like this design, some design of seamless from ancient Egyptian history to modern knitting industry. By the same or by this theory, using a modern fabric for ladies in modern fashion. We can see this for modern fashion also by using knitting fabric. We can see this photo also by using seamless theory in modern fashion. We can see, thank you for all of you. And this presentation I sent for Professor Gabriel Walk to distribute for all people in Europe or even all over the world. If it is useful for all of you. Many thanks for all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you. Could you give us we would like to see ourselves and be so kind to remove your presentation from the screen. Is it possible?
Okay, thank you.
Be so kind. So unfortunately, we should keep our time schedule. There are such a lot of information and we are accustomed that everybody can tell us more and more information because all of us very devoted in this issue. But I promised to Mr. Giulio Bonazzi to start his lecture about 3 o'clock, and it is much more later. So I kindly ask everybody to try to keep our time schedule. And I would like to introduce now Mr. Giulio Bonazzi, and I kindly ask you to remove your from the screen. Yes, okay, it's okay. So I would like to introduce you Mr. Giulio Bonazzi. I think many of you know him. He is the chairman and CEO at Aquafil Group, and his topic is the power of circularity. So Giulio, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Gabriella. I hope you can see my screen, yes. That my presentation is on the screen. Well, yes. I think, and this already since more than 15 years, that we can't continue like that. The textile industry is already today one of the most polluting ones, and if nothing happens in few years from now, will be the most polluting one. And this, of course, will not be allowed both by consumers and by lawmakers. And so I think that we must take a challenge and transform waste into an opportunity instead of a problem. This is what I've tried to do since several years, but I tell you, the beginning was very bumpy. And especially when I was talking to the banking sector and asking for money to develop my solutions, the answer has always been no. But what are we doing at Aquafil? We produce a yarn or a polymer made out of nylon, which we like to call it regenerated, because it's 100% recycled, made of plastic waste, such as fishing nets, fabric, scraps, and old carpets. Of course, I'm transforming nylon into nylon and not other materials into nylon, because I am not a magician, or better, the magic is not so terrible as, you know, you could make anything out of any kind of waste. And why we say that ECONYL is a beautiful yarn, but with a very different story? Because we like to say that has three very important, let's say, factors. It is sustainable, infinite, and endless. Sustainable because it is coming 100% out of waste, so no new resources from the planet. And at least 50% of these wastes are coming from post-consumer sources. The two most important post-consumer sources are today represented by fishing nets and by carpets. Fishing nets are coming from all over the world, also from Canada. Near Vancouver, there is an important fishing industry, but they are coming from Europe, from Asia, from Japan, even from New Zealand. Infinite because the system we have developed is not a simple remelting of plastics. It's not like bottle to fiber and then fiber to grade, but we return to the original building blocks of nylon. So we return to its raw material, to the monomer, through a process which is called depolymerization. The depolymerization process is applicable only to two polymers, nylon 6 and polyester. The difference is that to date, only nylon 6 with ECONYL has an industrial realization. Just to give you an idea, we are not like a startup, because today we depolymerize more than 40,000 metric tons per year. Why endless? Because returning to the raw material, the monomer, and then going back to the polymer and the fiber, we can reproduce any product. So we don't give any limitations to fashion designers or to engineers. So they can choose and pick any color, any count, any number of filament, whatever they like. So the material can go for flooring, can go for fashion, can go for injection molding, even for 3D printing application. And this with the reduction of the global warming potential up to 90% in comparison with the petroleum-based one. This, of course, because instead of drilling oil, transporting oil, refining oil, and making fiber intermediates, we just take waste and return to the monomer. So it's a very short production process. And that's the reason why today ECONYL is one of the solutions which has been adopted by more than 2,000 brands all over the world. And among them, of course, the most important ones are Prada, Gucci, Stella McCartney, and Alexander McQueen, Burberry's, and many, many others. And this, of course, is something that has made us famous all over the world. But ECONYL is not sufficient to change the world. It's an important pillar because it's the base for circular solutions. But if we want to go there, I believe that we need basically three very important things. We need a proper legislation because the legislation can really facilitate. Take, for example, the question of the plastic bottles, where a deposit system is implemented and collection centers are well developed, like in Germany or in Scandinavian countries, especially in Norway, they can reach up to 97% recycling rate. So at this point, plastic bottles are no more representing a problem, but on the opposite are an opportunity. Education, because education, of course, is always giving better people, better income per capita, and also more knowledge to make the right choice when, of course, you have the choice in front of you. And then the third, it's a magic word, which is called eco-design, because the present generation of products are not made to be recycled at the end of their use, but as we know, they are made to be discarded into landfills or maybe incinerated. If we want really to have a perfectly circular model, we need really to design products and processes in a way that at the end they do not represent a difficulty when you want to recycle them, but I mean, they are easy for the kind of process. In this sphere, having short period of time to share with you, the most important example for me is represented by this jacket developed by the company Napapiri. Napapiri, for those of you who don't know, are an important part of the WF Corporation. WF Corporation are the owner and yes, of the North Face. And we have made an intensive work with the staff and the team of Napapiri to develop their most iconic jacket made out of a mono material, entirely made out of nylon 6, and of course, when possible and available, out of ECONYL. So the shell fabric, the linings, the fillers inside, the zippers, the fasteners, ropes, everything, even the labels inside, are made out of nylon 6. The jacket is sold with a QR code. So if you want, you can register yourself within their community, and not earlier than 2 years, you can take it back. Of course, they don't want to encourage fast fashion. So you can use the jacket at least 2 years, and then if you like, you can take it back to their shops. The last one has been open in Milano, and you will be credited of an amount that is representative of the raw material which is inside. That, of course, they hope you will spend this money into their shop for the next product that you want to buy. This is a work that has taken more than 3 years, because, of course, they wanted this jacket to be made without any aesthetic compromise, without any performance differences with the conventional one, and really having something at the end that can be easily taken back and returned to us in order to be depolymerized into our regeneration system. Now we have several works of this time, several projects with many companies that are really starting a new wave of redesigning products, as I like to say, having the end in mind. Because if we really want to recycle products easily, we need really to make them thinking what is happening at the end, and not simply because of aesthetically they are beautiful. Of course, they must be beautiful, because if not, people will not buy them, or because they can be competitive or inexpensive, or because they can be super luxury. But you have to know what you want to do at the end with what you are making. I thank you for your time, and of course, if you have any question, I will be very glad to answer.
Thank you so much. how easier were the life in Egypt if they had Econil. So maybe the life were not so easy, but it was also interesting what kind of development they made in this historical time. So I think that it would be good to continue with Dr. Sabina Otaru, because we have in panels, different panels. So Sylvia, are you here, and is it possible to continue with you? Yes?
Yes, yes.
So may I introduce you, Dr. Sabina, Sabina Olaru is working at the National the Institute for Textile and Leather in Romania, and I heard her very nice presentation last time when we had another event, and I really liked it, and that's why I invited you. Your topic is clothing design in the context of circular economy. So you are the next one, please.
Thank you very much for our invitation. I'm very honored. I will share my presentation with you. I hope everything will work just fine. It's okay? Can you see my screen?
Yes, okay.
According to the document Strategic Innovation Research Agenda of the European Textile and Clothing Industry, developed by Euratex, the European Technology Platform, one of the major strategic innovation theme and corresponding research priority of the next year is circular economy and resource efficiency. Recently, the European Commission launched the new industrial strategy for globally competitive green and digital Europe. In this context, innovation and market potential of the European textile and clothing industry involve the frequent use of the term circular economy. Although the benefits of the circular economy are fairly well understood, in reality, there are few industrial examples of companies that have implemented the circular economy paradigm in this moment. Principle of circular product design. Circular product design provides a long-term sustainability performance for products by applying the principle of designing out waste, fitting the product in the circular economy where the value of the product, its components and materials are maintained and not wasted. Circular product design provides solution and for understanding the product development processes for fashion, to rethink, reuse, or upcycle the waste in the production stage. This work presented the application of circular product design assessment for clothing by using two practical tools to assess product circularity: hotspot mapping and circularity calculator, developed by Delft University of Technology, Netherlands. The selected product is a quilted jacket for women, composed by main material doubled with a thermal layer and the lining made from synthetic textile material polyester. The fasteners are plastic zippers for the front component and also for the pockets. The analysis began with a gentle dismantle. The dismantle took around an hour from the women's jacket using scissors, and included the takeoff of the lining, the labels, the trimmings, the collar, then the front zippers, the zipper, the lips, the back, and the front. The hardest part was to detach the stitches in the hip line and the metal staples. The first tool is the hotspot mapping. This tool was used to analyze the product architecture to the dismantling of the product and mapping the key properties of all components, such as material, weight, easy of disassemble, likelihood to break, and more. The tool spotted the critical points in the product architecture related to the key circularity metrics. The lining was prioritized because the time to cut the assemblies within the main materials, especially in the hip line and sleeves line, where the stitches were reinforced with a tape made from the same main material. Trimmings and inner collar were prioritized also for the time of disassembly. One edge of these components is attached to the zipper by multiple stitches. The back was prioritized on environment and economic impact. It gathers a large mass of material made from synthetic fiber polyester. These three hotspots actually are interrelated and focus the functionality of the product. They were prioritized because of the time of detach, but the resistance of the stitches is very important for the durability of the jacket during wear. The kilted back, doubled with the thermal layer, assures the protection against external factors like cold, rain, or wind. Circularity calculator is the tool used to quantify key circularity metrics and develop circular scenarios based on the data from the early stages of the product development. These metrics include resource circularity and potential value capture for different circular scenarios. Generally, clothing products need major redesign to fit the circular economy, so it is essential to assess potential of various circular strategies such as reuse, repair, remanufacture, and recycle. Linear scenario. The linear scenario is actually not circular, but recycled materials are used for the metal staples, and that means that is a loss of 33.5 kilo euro in total. The circular scenario is in the refurbished scenario. It was assumed that 80% of collected used product can be refurbished and reused. In this case, resource circularity increased to 37% and the value capture to 8%. The recycling scenario increased the circularity to 66% and the cycle content to 94%. In the same time, the value capture decreased to 2%. The assumption in this scenario is that all the polyester materials are 100% recycled. Conclusions. By using these two tools, important criteria and facts were obtained to decide which are the most promising circular design strategy for the particular context. The tool pointed the most significant contributors to the effective implementation of circular strategies. The most promising circular scenario is the recycling by using recycled materials and also recycled products after use in 40%. The business model is a circular and sustainable one, and the changes in the product architecture design, the trimming strategy can be applied by rethinking the use of stitches for lining assembling with reversible fasteners like Velcro band, zippers, so that the assembly can be done very easily. The opportunities are indeed not using virgin raw materials wherever possible. The bottleneck will be to the collection of the products, since the payback strategy are not so user-friendly nowadays. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I will stop the sharing.
Yes, thank you so much. And you were the only one who kept the time schedules. Thank you.
I practice a lot.
So, yes.
Thank you.
Yes, everybody has their own topic, and I can understand it. And for example, on Monday we had the panel of education. And we planned 2 hours, but it was 2.5 hours, and everybody was so excited, and nobody wanted to finish it, because at the end there was a very good discussion, and the people came from all over the world, and they were very happy to meet each other. So, but it is good.
Yes, it is good. Thank you very much.
So, yes, we like it. Thank you so much.
Sorry.
I want we go
to
back.
Check if it works now,
yes.
So it's okay. I was checking.
Yes,
it's okay.
Thanks a lot, because you were the only one who, because I'm afraid that our friend from Egypt started.
It's okay. It's okay. I just want to check what's happened, no, so it's okay. Okay.
Yes, it's okay. Okay, thank you so much. So we go back to the other panel. I kindly ask Dr. Vishal Garg Narvana. I am very excited. What about an advocate and a solicitor from India can tell us what is interesting for him regarding the challenge in the sustainable and circular fashion. So I kindly ask you, Vishal, are you there?
Yes, I'm here only.
Yes, be so kind to join us and share your views in this topic.
It's my pleasure to have association with you, ma'am. I think first of all, fashion at today's world is an extremely harmful industry for environment and ecosystem. The hidden cost of fashion is not at all and never reflected in the price tag of the garments. I am Vishalgar Nirvana advocate. I'm a social activist and environmentalist also. I'm working in India, Singapore, and Dubai. Now, today I will appraise you and discuss about the challenges in sustainable fashion and circular fashion. Now, for example, there are many products which are in the market. First of all, let's take cotton. Now, for the production of raw cotton, lots of water is wasted, and it is based upon the heavy use of pesticides, because without pesticides and without heavy use of water, the cotton cannot be produced. So when the cotton product is manufactured by any of the industrialists or any of the fashion designer, it is never discussed or never appraised or never taken into consideration that how much this garment or this fashion product is damaging the environment. Now, after that, if we go to synthetic product, it is heavily based upon chemical used and which is later on washed into rivers. For the sustainable fashion and for the circular fashion, it can be seen by way of two things. There are two angles to look upon these things. First is it can be looked at from the angle of fashion industry, and the another aspect is from the angle of consumers. Now, the thing is, the sustainable and circular fashion is an antithesis to the concept of take, make, and waste. Fashion industry is facing challenge of non-circular and sustainable fashion, which is damaging to ecosystem and environment also. Circularity will require us to adopt a completely new mindset of reusing, repairing, and recycling the products and materials by leaving behind the traditional approach. Apparels, shoes, or accessories should be designed and produced durable and thereafter returned safely to the biosphere when no longer of human use. Today's product of fashion should be the resources of tomorrow. The products should be designed in such a manner that the same can be dismantled or can be reused by some alteration or modification, and the product can be recycled at the end of its use. The concept of swapping, rental, borrowing, redesign, and second-hand service should be introduced among the consumers. The concept of charity and donation also should be introduced for getting the product in circulation for making the fashion sustainable. Fashion designers should take responsibility to make effective business models to implement these raw ideas as they are the real experts. Now, they only know how to push back the product in the market. The raw material should not be virgin raw material. Only these fashion experts know that how technically the fabric can be transformed into fabric without any loss in quality. The designers can produce classical designs which are long lasting. This circular culture of fashion products will also increase the scope of job of small workers and artisans. No doubt there will be loss of profit and loss of quality, but the sustainable and circular fashion is very much necessary for the future earth and ecosystem, and to reduce the negative impact on environment. For this revolution, whole fashion industry should come together. In India also, the government has launched a government has launched a project, namely Sustainable Revolution. This is the fashion and textile industry's commitment to move forward a fashion not to pollute the environment. Some of the most prominent designers and textile industrialists of India have pledged to use the sustainable portion of their total consumption using sustainable raw materials by the year 2025. This will encourage wider adoption of practices in production that would reduce the impact on the environment while also encouraging the need for transformation across the sector. So it is the call of today's hour to adopt the pattern to take, make, and dispose, because fast fashion is harming the world more than we realize, and our chase for low prices and elevated styles is fueling the same. In this circular model of production, distribution, and usage, every garment is made keeping its next use in mind. It's designed for longevity, biodegradability, and recyclability. It's sourced and produced without using any techniques or materials that are toxic for the environment. This way, in its entirety life cycle, the article doesn't harm the environment at any stage, but goes without saying, the success of the model is dependent upon the consumer's action. And for starters, it's essential that by buying sustainable fabrics and reuse and recycle garments. Apart from that, we also should use, wash, and repair them with care and consider swapping, renting, redressing instead of buying more. Last but not the least, it is always best to choose quality over quantity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I would like to ask Silvia, sorry, because Silvia Kabaivanova, she is chairman of the Bulgarian Fashion Association, and she has an interesting topic, influencing consumer behavior. I would like to ask you, Silvia, to hold your lecture.
Yes,
are you
hello?
there? Yes, yes, yes.
Hello, everyone. I am sharing my screen now. Okay. First, I will start with some psychological principles, how to influence consumer behavior towards sustainable consumption, because it's important to try new methods for influencing people, because every one of us knows what sustainable fashion is, that it's very useful, but when it comes to buying, we always look for other incentives. And Roberto Cialdini, a US professor of marketing and business and psychology, synthesized his years of experience on research on social influence into 6 universal principles for understanding attempts how people are influenced. And brands can use those principles when they want to sell their products. The first principle is reciprocity. We all feel the need to return a favor or a kind gesture. So when a brand offers a discount or a free sample, people then are obliged to return the favor to the brand, and they become its followers. The next principle is commitment. Once someone is engaged with something, he sticks to it, and this is connected with brand loyalty. Pack mentality means that if people do something, others are likely to do it as well, and they copy their behavior. When brands can demonstrate that they have a lot of followers and they are very popular, more people are likely to buy from those brands. And people are more likely to listen to an expert. And this is the next principle, the authority. Also, we are influenced by people with similar interests or similar demographics or religion or similar interests, and that's the fifth principle, liking. And the scarcity means that people want what they cannot have. So if a service or a product seem to be exclusive, or they will go out of stock quickly, we are more likely to want to have it. And the typical marketing mix can be used for selling sustainable products, which is considering the product, place, price, and promotion, the 4 Ps, and we add the sustainability factor. For the product, it means that it needs to reduce the impact on the environment and the ecosystem, and we need to take into consideration the product functions and also the product process, which means that we are considering the raw materials. We are all talking about natural fibers, which are recycled or produced with water and land-saving techniques. And also for man-made fibers from recycled materials and produced with low environmental impact. And we also take into consideration the process, which must be water and energy saving. And we're talking about reducing waste. And, oh, sorry, it's the same page. Next is the price of the products. In many cases, sustainable products are more expensive, and we need to consider if the client is willing to pay a higher price for sustainable products. The place is the channels when on the market where we can sell sustainable products, and the promotion is how to advertise the products. One good way for promoting sustainable products is to make them fashionable, because fashion trends have the opportunity to make a huge impact on the fashion industry worldwide. And while in the past, fashion trends emerged from the brands, and they were advertised on the magazines, and they became fashion trends. Now there are much more ways for fashion trends to emerge. There are a lot of influencers and bloggers who set the fashion trends. Celebrities have always been the biggest trendsetters because they have a lot of fans, and they easily influence them. Urban fashion shows still have a lot of influence on people when setting the fashion trends. So we need to have more sustainable brands going on the runway. Street style is also influencing people. There are the looks that people wear on their everyday life, and they influence their friends and also other people on the street. But people also look on the fashion capitals because fashion is international, and fashion capitals like Milan, London, New York influence the global fashion. And here are some tips how to become a sustainable fashion consumer, because modern consumers are more aware of the environment and the human cost of their wardrobes, but the surveys show that consumers would like to buy more sustainable clothes and can pay a little bit more, but they don't really understand what sustainable means. And in fact, like someone before me says, most of the clothes today are not made so that they can be recycled. And that's a big problem of fashion. And also there is a big contradiction because some brands tell us that they are sustainable, but at the same time, they tell us to buy more and that we need a new outfit every day. And I think Vivienne Westwood said it best, buy less and choose well and make it last. And sustainable fashion means high quality pieces that you absolutely love and you want to keep forever and to wear a lot. When buying something, ask yourself, will I wear this item 30 times? If the answer is yes, then you should buy it. Then you'll be a sustainable fashion consumer if you try to repair your clothes before you replace them. And if you remember, at least I have seen in the past brands who offer high quality clothes that they attach a button to the clothing so that you can replace a button if you lose it. But it's more rarely seen now. Also, one of the best ways to ensure your purchase will be good for both your wallet and the environment in the long term is to check the fabrics. Choosing natural and biodegradable fabrics is the most sustainable option. And it is good that today there are many sustainable pieces that are trendy and good looking, because in the past sustainable only meant linen trousers, but now it's not the case. Also, buying vintage is a very good option, and renting clothes, as someone also talked about this subject. A good thing is to unsubscribe from fast fashion emails so that you are not distracted with this and tempted with something very cheap. Following sustainable brands and influencers is also a good idea. And in my opinion, the future is in custom clothes and made-to-order products. Because in the past, the process was design, produce, and sell. And in the future, and we also see it now, the process is first design, then sell, and then produce. And this can be seen, for example, in print-on-demand products and also made-to-measure garments. Thank you. If someone wants to contact me, here are my details.
Thank you so much. As the country coordinator of the Fashion Revolution Hungary too, I agree with your proposals. So all of buy less, choose well, make it last. I think it is our motto. Yes, thank you so much. I would like to introduce to you Marcellus. Are you here? Hello? Marcellus, can you see?
Yes, I am here.
Yes.
I'm trying to see if my camera will work properly this time. Earlier.
Yes, we see you. We see you.
Okay. Yeah, but it's like
I would like to introduce. Yes, Marcellus is well known for a lot of people. He is director, also our global development director in our Global Sustainable Fashion Week, but he is professor at the Sorbonne University, and he is well known as a fashion and also brand and fashion professional, I can tell you, and TV and also media expert. So welcome. And he would like to discuss about the post-pandemic world and the special consciousness and the blockchain technology, because I think that the last lecture will be about the future. How can we approach to this whole circularity in fashion, to the fashion itself, and he would like to explain his views on this topic. Welcome on board, Marcellus.
Thank you. I'm trying to pull my screen back up. There it is. Okay, so today I'm going to be speaking very briefly. Let me start my timer, 18 minutes, okay? So I want to talk to you today about something that is really in the l'air du temps, as we say here in France. So we're talking, I want to talk about the fashion industry post-COVID-19, because there's been so many changes, you know, that we absolutely must talk about the social consciousness, blockchain technology, and NFTs as a part of those changes. But first, I want to thank Dr. Gabriela Valek and the Global Sustainable Fashion Week for having me here. When the COVID virus took off in Europe last year, we were in the middle of the 2021 women's collections. And I recall sitting down having a coffee one morning with a sales representative from Milan. And at that time, he painted a very frightening and very unsure picture about the future of fashion. Then, as we all know, 2.5 weeks later, all of the northern region of Italy was placed in quarantine. And along with millions of other people in Italy, and then in France, and in many other countries throughout the European Union. Now, what I wanted to do is to talk about this. You know, this was such a big deal for our industry, because we know that as of 2017, the fashion industry in Europe represented 500 billion euros. And about half of that, or about $560 billion. Now, 43% of that money is generated pretty much right here in France, with about 1 million jobs. So here in France, our industry was exceptionally hit very, very, very hard. So when we talk about all of the negative aspects, since the time of the shutdowns around the world, you know, and the confinements, and which are still happening, so much is changing and has been changing and will continue to change. And it's really frightening for a lot of people, but I want to tell you all that this is not a time to be afraid. I think this is one of the most exciting periods in fashion since the creation of Christian Dior's new look, or since Pierre Cardin invented ready to wear, or Yves Saint Laurent created the smoking for women. Now, last year, you know, we heard a lot of bankruptcies and things like that going on. For example, among the retailers, we had major retailers in the United States, such as JCPenney, Pier 1, Neiman Marcus, J. Crew, and Diane von Furstenberg. They all filed for bankruptcy protection. And then we had others, such as Jeffries and Opening Ceremonies, that permanently went out of business as a result of what was happening. But something that we all need to be prepared for is this, and if we're going to prepare future generations of fashion creators to be able to survive, we have to understand that what happened last year was cyclical. Every 8 to 10 years, there is something major that comes along in the world that brings down all of the global financial markets equally around the world. So even though COVID-19 was exceptionally frightening for us, the results on the market is nothing new. And I can give you an entire list. For example, we had at the 1991 Gulf War, where the Allies in the United States went to war against Saddam Hussein when he invaded Kuwait. Then we turned around, and in 2001, we had two events that happened. We had the explosion of the dot-com bubble, and then we also had the September 11, 2001 attacks. And then 7 years after that, we had the 7 or 8 years after that, we had these subprimes in which all of these sectors were down, except for one. All of the sectors were down around the world during those big events, except for one, and that was the luxury goods sector. And the luxury goods sector is always the absolute last industry to be affected whenever there is a strong economic downturn. But COVID was different. In many fashion businesses found themselves at having a really difficult time. So our lives were interrupted for several months. But the one thing that was really good about this is we had to innovate. And that's something that fashion has always been known for. It is our innovative spirit. It is our desire and will to do what was not done before and to adapt. So for small designers, even though large department stores and the main boutiques in Paris, such as Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior, Givenchy, they were all closed. However, online sales were creeping up, right? And so we also saw many young designers around the world becoming known, and small little craftsmen that were doing things on their own that were not associated to the big lights of the Parisian catwalks. And they were able to use tools that are at the disposition of everyone, such as Etsy, Shopify, and Amazon. And I'm going to tell you, I know this is to be true because last year, from June, when we went from June 25th to 2019 to June 25th, 2020, Amazon, the world's biggest retailer, went up 41.5%. And this is during the COVID hysteria, right? And last year at that time, the stock of Amazon was $2,600.86. Today, it has also experienced that same level of growth. And today, and I checked it about an hour ago, the stock at Amazon today right now has gone from 2,600 a year ago today to $3,276. So there is growth, and we have to look at what is powering this growth. It is technology. Now, when we take this idea of technology, we have to understand that we can take this and we can apply it to all sectors, and particularly the fashion sector. So this way we have both large fashion houses and small fashion houses can benefit equally in the same way. And what's even more important, I feel, is that this is the best thing for small fashion houses because they, by using technology, by using this little thing here called a mobile phone, and by using applications such as Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, they can launch campaigns that can actually have just as much impact with their audience as any other major house, such as Calvin Klein, but on their own level. I do want to point that out, not the sales volume, but they can experience similar growth, okay? Now, I want to move on to the part of this where I like to talk about like the social consciousness of what we're talking about. So when we're talking about this particular thing, you know, millennials have been leading the way in bringing back prosperity to fashion. And I want to also include the Generation Z, because we have those younger ones after the millennials who are using platforms such as Etsy for their growth, okay? 30 years ago, there was a young woman who spoke at a beauty pageant, and she absolutely won. And what she said back then was, as she was answering her question, she said that what we were facing back then was a choice between we-ness instead of me, the individual, spirituality instead of materialism, collectivity instead of individuality. Now, those are the values, even though these words were spoken 27 years ago this summer, those are exactly the values that define what the millennials are all about today. And so when we're talking about this, they're looking out for the welfare of others. They are using now their influence and their power to bring about social consciousness. They expect more. Millennials and Generation Zs, they will pay more for a product if the product is sustainably made. Now, of course, the product has to be visually attractive, so you just can't put out anything and with a more expensive price tag and expect people to buy it. The creativity has to be there. But if the creativity and the quality is there, they will actually pay more for it than they would pay for a comparable brand that is not sustainable. So when we take that into consideration, we also had other activists in these generations, such as the young Greta Thunberg, who is amazing at challenging systems around the world and reminding everyone that we can do better, not only in our own countries, but we must do better for the environment, because this is this environment that is affecting everything. And we know that fashion is one of the biggest polluters of the environment on the planet. So we must do better in terms of this. And so these attitudes, which are about social activism, are being aggressively adopted by the fashion world. 4 years ago, with some partners throughout the European Commission, the European Union, I created what is known now as the European Consortium for Emerging Fashion. And we worked together to be able to bring technology to change the way things are being done. And we have amazing partners. So these are things that are very important to us. But what are the other things that this consortium will be doing? So we are actively talking about social movements in fashion, right? And in this, there must be, if you want to be a successful fashion brand today, you must respond to the needs of the public. And but what are those demands today? What are those needs? Those needs are defined also by diversity. They are defined by inclusion, in the sense where fashion has ignored so many people. Fashion is exclusive, and by that it excludes people. So now we're in this big moment in time where we have recognized the errors of our past, and that we are trying to do better in order to make sure that everyone feels implicated. And this means that we are eliminating barriers in terms of age. We are bringing back people who are much older, who are of age to retire, but we are bringing them back into the circle of fashion economy, and we are using their talents. And not only are we benefiting from their years of knowledge, but we are also transmitting to these elder generations new technologies that they never thought they would ever have to use. This is what I am talking about when we are doing these things. We must use these things such as blockchain technology as well. I'm going to just talk about that for a moment. Every time we talk about the social consciousness, I do want to point out one thing. Last year in the United States was a very difficult year for Americans. We were all at home because of the COVID, and we all saw the murder of George Floyd. This was something that woke people up to the woes of social justice and the inequalities that exist in society. Now, people, when we are investing in our fashion brands, we expect people to do better. We expect companies to do better. And when people are buying fashion, they say, if I give you my money, what are you doing with my money? What are you doing to protect the environment? What are you doing to protect the rights of women in the workplace? What are you doing to make sure that women are paid what women should be paid? What are we doing to make sure there is more diversity in the C-suite, where people are making the decisions that affect us all? Last year, there was a huge fight that took place in the public sphere on Twitter between Louis Vuitton's new menswear designer Virgil Abloh and the former designer, Mr. Marc Jacobs. Virgil Abloh was like, oh, you guys are breaking windows. And Marc Jacobs was like, who cares about the windows? People have been murdered. And this is not the time to worry about money. We've got to think about the public. So the public got behind Marc Jacobs, right? And Louis Vuitton's reputation went down because of what Virgil Abloh actually had to say. Because of that. Now, I know that I am nearly at my breaking point here, and I do want to try to rush into this about the blockchain technology. In the projects that we are working on, we are helping people to understand what exactly is blockchain technology and what is the power of this blockchain technology. Whenever we hear the words blockchain technology, most people always associate it to cryptocurrencies. That's part of the story. But blockchain technology is actually a secured and safe technology. And it traces everything from the moment something was conceived to the final state to where it is today in all its evolutions. It is impossible to fake blockchain technology. This is why blockchain technology is the power source behind cryptocurrencies. And now it is also the power source behind NFTs. Now, we have to start teaching blockchain technology in the fashion industry on all levels. And it is never too late to learn to use it and to learn about this. I'm going to wrap this up in 90 seconds, if you will indulge me. What I want to say is this: when we talk about blockchain technologies and we talk about NFTs, which are non-fungible tokens also are powered by the same technology that powers cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin and Ethereum and Dogecoin, right? Now, The very first NFT, non-fungible token, sold a couple of months ago for $69.3 million. I didn't quite understand what it was, just like I did not understand what Bitcoin was a decade ago. But at this particular point, can fashion people afford not to learn about this, even though we don't understand it as much? No, we cannot afford that. And why is that? Because this helps, because of what the public expects. We can use blockchain technology to help young designers in emerging fashion markets to be able to explain exactly how their product is made, where they got the material to create this project. And even along the way, they can use the blockchain technology to create their own NFTs. Creating NFTs will allow them to be able to sell, and this will also be able to help them to earn money. Earning money is what will reduce socioeconomic disparities in society. And this is what we absolutely must think about. And the last thing I want to say before I conclude is, can you imagine if we were to go back in time and if blockchain technology existed, if we actually were able to film Christian Dior as he was creating the new look, and we did this as NFTs, showing step by step by step in each block, right? Can you imagine? This is savoir-faire, this is knowledge that would be guaranteed to be transmitted for generations and generations and generations. I'm sorry that I seem a bit rushed. 10 minutes, it goes by so quickly. So I'm gonna stop there, but if any of you have any questions about blockchain technologies, NFTs, and what we can do to bring this type of technology in education to people in different countries, please do reach out to me. Dr. Gabriella Wallach, she knows exactly how to reach me, and I thank you all for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Marcellus. And you had the closing words about the future perspective. So instead of me, you explain your ideas. I think that this blockchain technology is very interesting. We were discussed about this topic, and I think that next time you should prepare a lecture about this topic. So thank you so much. The problem is our time is okay, so it's a bit over. I kindly invite you tomorrow, because we have the last panel about the Creative Europe. And this is about the World Partnership Project, in which the innovation, what about you discussed, and also this new solution have a very important role. So we can discuss also tomorrow about a lot of things, so you are kindly invited. But today I would like to thank all of you, the very valuable presentation, and it was also my honor to be in such a good company. And I do hope that we continue this discussion and collaboration, and that's why I invite you also tomorrow if you have other idea. I work in the World Partnership Project in the steering board, and I try to push the applicants who made the application with circular and also sustainable approach. So when I make the evaluation, I received also this project, because they know exactly that I say that when we make the evaluation, it should be very important, not only the creativeness, but also the circularity of the project design. So thank you so much, and see you maybe tomorrow, but anytime I am available, and it would be good that you can keep contact with each other and to do something, maybe common projects, so who knows. Thank you so much, and have a nice day, evening. I think that all of us in the similar time zone. Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.